I was just telling the error is telling me that I didn't have an attachment, or I didn't have a shadow attached on the earlier one. Okay, so it's attached. Now when we move, the shadow moves with us, but you can see it's kind of offset a bit because the shadow is pivot is in the center, so we can change that. And you see once I stopped, it jumps back out because that's where it was before. So we go to inspector and use the pivot. Kind of set our pivot down here a bit. So now when we play, it'll jump, but now it looks a little better. So that's how we can make the shadow follow. And you'll notice too, we're still calling debug log whenever we hit. So if I try to attack from back here, nothing gets called because the collisions aren't occurring. If I get close enough, then the sword hits. Well, in this case, an axe, but it has to be close enough. So that's just showing that the trigger's working correctly. Okay. Now, something else we want to do. Let's make the sound hit whenever the sword or the axe hits the target. Let's create a sound for that. So first, let's set up our sound. I'm going to attach it to the knight again. It's getting kind of crowded here. I could probably create a manager for all this, but just for simplicity on this tutorial, I'm going to just attach the audio source to this. So let's go to component, audio source. We'll go over here to our hit wood sound, take off play on awake, and we also need to change the hit wood to be a 2D sound for this particular example because my listener is ortho of camera far away, so it wouldn't be able to hear it if it wasn't 2D. So okay, go back to our knight, and we have our hit wood sound. Now we just need to attach it here. So let's add a reference to the audio source, and here where we're calling this debug log for the sword hit, we can just take this out because we don't need that anymore if we have a sound. So make the hit sound play. So if our sword or axe or whatever hits the target, it should play that sound. Okay, now we just need to attach this to the knight. A lot of objects here. Okay, so the hit is now attached. So now when I play, I'll turn up the volume here. Now if I back off, it just makes the swish sound because it doesn't actually hit. Alright, so that's working. Now one other thing we want to do, let's go ahead and add an animation whenever we hit this. We're going to make some sparks fly. It doesn't really make sense with the metal and the wood, but we could make wood chips fly or whatever, but I've already set up a spark texture, so we're going to go ahead and use that. So to begin, let's go into animations, right click, create smooth moves bone animation, just like we did for our knight. We're just going to call this sparks. Open up our animation editor. This is just going to have a couple bones. Spark 1 and 2. And we'll just have one animation. We could have multiple bones, but I'll just pick one. Call it hit. And let's set both of these atlases to our new FX atlas update. We'll set our texture to the spark. We can leave the pivot at the center, that'll work. I want to do the same with this one. Oops. Alright, so now we have two sparks, but they're same size, same position. That's not really what we want. So let's go ahead, make these kind of vary a bit. Alright, so we start with there, and let's, I don't know, put a keyframe here maybe. Kind of rotate it, added some scaling. And it's asking if I want to add a keyframe for Spark 2 at frame 5. Yes, I do. Rotate, set some scaling. And we want to eventually just fade it out, so let's add in some blanks here. Scale it down to 0. Same with this one. That'll make it just fade out. Alright, so if we play it, it just kind of comes into being and fades away. I want to adjust the animation curves a bit. Let's open up the scale. Let's kind of change these a little bit. You can go really wild with these. It kind of just falls away. All right, let's change another one. This only has one keyframe. Let's add another keyframe in here. Click on Add Points On. Just select one. I can turn that back off. This is the rotation, so it's going to kind of spin funny. It goes really fast that way, then it goes back. Actually, it doesn't go back at all, so let's make it go back. Let's play it. Let's speed this up really fast. I'll change the scale here. Let's make it pop in really big and then jump out. So it'll jump up to 2 and then come down on the scale. So it looks like it's hitting and then falling away. Now we could add other animations for variation, but this would be good enough. So let's just go ahead and close this. Now let's create a hit animation object. So empty game object. Let's call it hit, or actually let's call it sparks. Keep in line with our other. Go down here, attach a bone animation, and for the data we'll pick sparks. Now to actually see this in the scene, we can update immediately. It pops in here. We'll just drag it somewhere over here. It's fine. Doesn't really matter where it is because we're going to move it at runtime. Okay, so now we have our hit animation. Let's go ahead and go to our code. Let's put in another reference to a bone animation for sparks. Now when we hit this target, we want to play a sound and we also want to show the sparks. So let's go sparks. Let's take its local transform, put its position at, now here's where we can use the trigger event. There's actually a variable here called other collider closest point to bone. It's not as precise as a collision event information. That would give you the precise location where the two hit, but this is pretty close because it takes the collider's capsule and then tries to calculate where the collision occurred. So this is a pretty good one. So we'll go ahead and use this. This is a vector 3, so that'll work for that. So we'll move the sparks there, and then we want to play the sparks. And we just call the animation hit. So we move the sparks, and then we play the animation. Let's go ahead and